Hello, I'm Lauren Carr, and welcome back to Authors on iTours. Today, we have a very enlightening interview with Randy Lyman, the author of The Third Element, the missing key to activating the law of attraction. Now, I'm sure if you're like me, you've asked yourself this question many times. If manifestation is so great, why does it feel like banging your head against a brick wall? Well, Randy's going to give us the answers to that question and many other questions that you may have. And any that he doesn't answer in this interview, then pick up his book of The Third Element, the missing key to activating the law of attraction, to find out the rest. Now, Randy Lyman is a multi-millionaire entrepreneur, physicist, and the author of The Third Element, which is a transformative guide to unlocking abundance through emotional mastery. With decades of experience building 500 recognized businesses and fostering cultures of belonging, Randy empowers leaders and individuals to align their emotions with their goals. He blends science, spirituality, and practical wisdom to create actionable strategies for growth, success, and fulfillment. Randy's work is dedicated to helping others break through emotional barriers and live in alignment with their highest potential. Check out the links below to visit Randy's website and his social media platforms to learn more about him and The Third Element. But I encourage you, don't go anywhere because we're going to have a great interview with Randy Lyman. Hello, this is Lauren Carr, and welcome to Authors on iTours, a podcast devoted to authors, book bloggers, and other book lovers alike. So today, our wonderful interview is with Randy Lyman, who we now have in the studio. And he is going to be talking to us about the third element, which is the missing element. And Randy, now without giving any spoilers, if it's possible, without giving any spoilers, tell us what is the third element that most people are missing?
Well, Lauren, the third element is, I'll just jump right to it, our emotions and the energy around our emotions that affects the world around us in a way that's unseen, but absolutely critical. So I break everything in the universe down to one of three categories or three elements. The first being our thoughts and information. The second element or category is our physical body and the physical world around us. And the third category, or as I say, element, which is absolutely the most important in my world, and I believe in everybody's world, is our emotions. And we work really hard and we try and be as smart as we can so we can control those first two elements. And the challenge is the third element, our emotions, spill into everything and attract everything into our world, the same as our thoughts attract to us and our actions attract to us and create our reality. The unhealed emotional trauma we have that we carry with us from anything small or large that we didn't feel completely the first time we experienced that emotion, that is the third element. And I explain it in the book in a little over 200 pages. It's not something I can give a spoiler on, but it's a really fun book. It's easy to read, and it has so much interesting information that I've put together over my experiences over the last 35 years focused on emotions.
Well, now your background is that you were a physicist, which
Yes.
to me it seems like a non-emotional background. How did you come upon this discovery?
Well, I'm not naturally an emotional person. I'm very comfortable with my emotions now, but I'm not naturally an emotional person. So about 30 years ago, I was a completely different person. I was a physicist and engineer with multiple successful businesses. And I was working at 28 years old, I was very successful. I was working as hard as I could to be smart and to work hard and to make my life work and find happiness. So I found success, but I never found fulfillment. I never found real true happiness. And then in November 1989, I was filling in one of my differential repair shops. I was filling in for the service manager. And on a sunny Wednesday afternoon, a woman by the name of Maria walked in to have her car repaired. And she just glowed with an energy I'd never seen before, just a happiness and peace that I'd never seen. And I knew I had to get to know this woman. And we ended up spending 3 years together. And she helped me get on the track of learning about the spiritual, emotional side of being human. Because again, I was a left brain scientist, and now she introduces to me this world of the unseen and the more compassionate, caring side of life. And it was all very new to me, but it was so intriguing. So since then, again, 35 years ago, I've focused all of my attention on, not all, but most of my extra energy and my attention on the emotional side of being human. And I've looked at it with the eyes of a scientist, meaning cause and effect. What happens in my world, in my emotions, in my experiences, my healing, and then how does my outside world change? So it was a complete 180-degree turn that I took that changed my life for the better. My relationships improved, my health became better, and my businesses became a whole lot more successful.
Well, now, okay, so I'm looking sort of like as you're talking, I'm thinking about my professional life. And, and I had worked many years with the federal government and, in writing and publishing. And I'm thinking about all these bosses that I had who, and we're talking back in the 80s and the 90s. Okay, you're a woman and you're emotional. They had the attitude that there was no place for emotion if you wanted to succeed. And there are still people today who have that. So is that wrong? Or how do you or do you have you only worked with people who embrace emotion?
I worked with both. And
Okay.
so I think that we should always be aware of our emotions, because if we're not aware of them, they will creep into our decisions, they'll creep into our relationships. And as a leader, if I walk into, whether it's a meeting with somebody on the floor, whether it's a meeting with senior managers, whether it's a board meeting, if I walk in with my emotions activated and I'm unaware of them or just trying to push them down, they're going to creep into my decisions. So I should never make decisions from a place of emotion. Yeah. I should make decisions from a calm, rational place of reasoning. And the only way to really do that is to be aware of my emotions. Now, I can turn off my emotions for a period of time. I have to be aware of them, and then I can turn them off and I can make decisions. To me, that's one way of approaching the world. But a better way is, okay, let's be aware of these emotions and see if we can work through them, experience them more completely, release that energy. And then when I'm interacting with other people, that energy's gone, it's dissipated, it's out of the way, and I can let those negative emotions go. I should be more specific. Let those negative emotions go and now be in a place of positive emotions. I can be confident. I can be happy. I can be enthusiastic about what I'm doing. And those positive, what we label as positive emotions, are not going to have a negative influence on my position as a leader. They're not going to have a negative influence on my relationships and the people I'm interacting with. And I explain all this in the book as to how we can become aware of our emotions, how we can work through our negative emotions and release those, how our thoughts also attract our world to us, and as well as our actions. And yes, we do have emotions. We are emotional, and we are human. And we can either shut those off completely and pretend they're not there, or we can find ways to work through them with a sense of mastery and fluidity in a way that we show up as our calm, rational, caring self with a balance of all three elements, a balance of our thoughts, a balance of our interaction with the physical world, and a balance of fluidity in our emotions in a way that our good emotions come through positively. And if we need to deal with our negative emotions, we are very aware of those, and we can do it in a positive way.
Can you give an example of that, or somebody that you worked with who had that? Because
That was me.
I'm sitting here sort of trying to think, like I'm thinking of an example of, like, some sort of chaos that's going on, and wow, we have to be sympathetic to these people here, but generally, you know, um, but this is the best
Yes.
decision, but then it's
Well,
going to
okay,
hurt.
so
Yeah. Can
that's
you
a great
give an example of that, or?
that's a great question. Yes, I was the example of that because I would walk into a room, I would be worried. Say my third business, that was when I was really the most stressed. It was in the 90s, and I was working hard for 3 years with no profit. I was running out of money, and I was very worried. And so when I showed up, I was worried, I was tense, and people sensed that. And I pushed people rather than being compassionate and interacting with them in a caring way. I was just demanding. And people don't respond very well to that. They will for a while, and maybe one out of two out of 100 will respond well to that, but most people don't. Most people want to be appreciated. Most people want to be respected and acknowledged. And most people want to feel like they're contributing to the cause and they belong to the team. And when I figured out how to show up in a way without my worry, I'm going to work through my own worry, and I put my hands over my heart because I feel that worry in my body, and that sets up a tension that people sense. So when I was able to identify my worry and deal with it outside of work and show up more calm and show up more caring and show up in a way that people felt, and felt is the key word, and they knew I was there to help them succeed. When I didn't worry about me, when I didn't worry about the business, when I said, can we do as a team? And how can I help people here feel like they're really cared about and they're contributing? And when I flipped it around and I made it all about other people, then suddenly they wanted to be there. They wanted the business to win. And we had a winning team and we did amazing things together. But that started with me addressing my own feelings and addressing my own emotions and working through those.
Now, what your book says is that this is the key to success, to breaking through, working really hard and beating your head against the wall and not getting anywhere, that this is the key to that. But aren't there a lot of people who are very successful who don't do that?
Well, yes, absolutely. There's many people who are successful. I was successful. I had multi-million dollar businesses before I did that. But once I did that, the whole energy, the whole mood of the business changed because people weren't feeling, oh God, I got to get this done. And then they weren't working from a place of pressure. They were working from a place of enjoyment. They loved their job. They loved the people they work with. They knew that if they did a good job, instinctually and mentally, they knew if they did a good job, they were going to be recognized for their work. They're going to be recognized for their contribution. So yes, we can force our way through a lot of things and find success, but we can't really find fulfillment. We can't find joy and happiness and peace in a workplace where there's so much pressure. So what I ended up doing was changing my behaviors, building exercises, building programs that were very effective at helping people feel good about their work. And when people feel good about their work, they produce more. They produce better work. They work better with others, and the environment and the mood. I guess the word really is the mood changes. And once that mood changed in my business and in other people's businesses I interacted with, then success just became natural. It was now we still have to have a plan. We still have to have good leaders. We still have to have discipline. We still have to remove the bad apples, but we can do it with calm. We can do it with confidence. We can do it with compassion and caring. And when we do that, then the business thrives. And when we do that and our competitors don't, our customers can sense the difference in how we care for them. And customers decide which businesses succeed. So for me, when I was able to turn it around 180 degrees and make it all about, okay, emotions first in our thoughts and our actions and our approach, not in our decision making, but in our approach, then the mood changed and the businesses flourished.
Okay, so you're saying that the decisions aren't that you're not saying that we need to be making decisions based on emotions, we can still make decisions based on, on business decisions, but just to do it with more compassion.
Yes, and we should never
That?
make decisions based on emotion. Now, intuition, gut feel, comes through very similar to emotion, but emotions will hit us with something where we say, "I have to do this because," and there's a story behind it, and as a reason, and it's justified because um, my emotions have an energy of their own. Intuition is a really quiet voice that says, "This is a good idea," and that's it. It never justifies. So I talk about that also in the book as to how I had to learn to embrace my intuition and learn to work with my intuition. And I talk about how we can do that. And when we learn to work with our intuition and discern between emotion and intuition, then the guidance is amazing. I made many multi-million-dollar decisions based on my intuition once I was familiar with and my intuition, and I had a good partnership with my intuition, and I knew through all my experiences what was emotional and what was intuitive. And once I was able to discern those, I could make intuitive decisions that matched my thought and made rational sense and move the business forward. And we can justify our emotional decisions, but that's a different process of a long justification, not a simple understanding.
Okay, can you give an example of that? I'm thinking one of example, like with my business, with I read book tours, is that I don't take on every book. That every client who comes to me says, "See, you were blessed that you that I took you on," because sometimes a book, and it's not because I don't like the book, it's because I don't have the creators and the influencers and the reviewers enough to give that person a good tour. I just don't have enough in that genre. But I'm also an author. So as an author, I know what it feels like to be rejected. So so there have been times that I've taken on books that in my head, I knew I wasn't going to give them a good tour, but I didn't want to say no because I didn't want to hurt their feelings because they're an
Oh,
author.
that
So
opens up a couple things.
yeah. So what is that intuition? Because and I say this to myself every time somebody gets a bad tour, I knew that I wasn't going to give them a good tour, but I didn't want to say no. And
Well,
so what is that? Is that intuition or was it emotion?
it's
Which was
emotion,
what?
because if people have betrayed us, if people have let us down, if people have rejected us, and we haven't felt that completely, because we're human, we don't feel every emotion completely and release it. That's just not the way we are. So if a person has felt rejection and hasn't felt it completely, and that resides within them, then they're going to want to not reject others because they know how it feels. It hurts to be rejected. So then we tend to project our own feelings onto the people around us. It's natural. And I talk about that in the book also. So our
But my
intuition,
intuition said they're not going to get a good tour.
right.
So
But
I
but
should
your
not.
compassionate self. Okay. So your intuition said they wouldn't get a good tour, but your compassionate, caring self and your own emotional wound said, "I don't want this person to feel this pain that I felt before, or that maybe I still feel. And so I'm going to worry more about the other person than myself." And we should always be aware of the other people. We should never behave badly towards others or hurt others. But, and I explain this in the book as well. This is great questions, Lauren.
Thank you.
We really cannot hurt anybody. They've set themselves up to, and this is real controversial, but they've set themselves up for us to act. Every person that's hurt me in my life, every person who set me back or said something mean or has betrayed me, my soul at some level has asked for them to do that so that I get the lesson, or it reactivates all the emotional wound that I can then get to feel and release. And it's a gift when somebody can reactivate my old emotional wound, then I can release the pain that I have, that I'm still carrying. And I talk about what that looks like, how ways to release it, and all that. So our irritations in life are typically drawn to us by our old emotional wounds we're hanging on to that we didn't feel completely. And once we learn, as the book points out and helps explain and give methods and tactics for, once we learn how to release those old emotional wounds, then the law of attraction no longer draws those irritations into our life. That's really what the book is about, is how can I change my approach to my thinking, my actions, and most importantly, my emotional wounds, so that I can attract a wonderful life to myself and I have fewer challenges and fewer complications and fewer bad experiences in my life. This is about making our life as good as we can. So really what I've done here as a scientist, through my own experiences and working with all the people around me, I have cracked the code to how God in the universe works with regards to creating our life. This is really deep stuff, and I do it in a fun way. But to me, because I've lived all this so many times, and I've relived all these experiences over the last 4 years we're writing this book, this is it. God interacts with us two ways. There's only two rules. One rule is love wins. When we respond to any situation from a position of love, we will find the answer. When we surrender and say, God, universe, spirit, guides, whatever you believe in that's bigger than us, that's good, help me out. Help me find the solution. That's the first rule. Then the second rule is the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says things that are similar to each other will be attracted to each other. Now, in science, we learn that opposite charges attract, opposite electrical charges attract. But at a deeper level, things that have a vibrational frequency that's similar are in resonance and they attract each other. So if I'm thinking, if I have the vibration of negative thoughts, I'm going to attract negative things into my life. If I'm taking negative action towards my body or towards others, the law of attraction is going to bring more negative things into my life. And if I have unhealed emotional trauma in my being that I haven't released, then the law of attraction is going to attract more of that into my life. Now, it does it because it wants us to release that old trauma, and we have to reactivate it and feel it to release it. So our old emotional trauma is like gasoline. We can store gasoline in a can for 5 or 10 years. And when we pour that gasoline out and light a match, it burns. But it only burns once and it's gone. And our emotions are the same way. Our emotions are stored within us, but when we reactivate them and feel them completely being the key word, now they're released. And like a can of burned gasoline, it turns into heat. Our old emotions turn into physical action, turn into heat, and they're transformed. It's like the first law of thermodynamics in science. Energy is neither destroyed nor created, it's just transformed. So when our old emotions that we didn't feel are not transformed into action and heat, then they're stored within us. They know no time at all. They will store forever. But when we reactivate them, we release them. Now that stored negative energy becomes heat in the universe, and we're clear, and we can attract good things to us. So the way that I came across the third element, I was thinking of a lot of different titles, is one day the little voice came into my head and came through and said, this is the third element of the three elements of everything in the universe. And this third element that you're telling people is the key. Let's just call it what it is, the third element. I said, well, that's not a really interesting title, but it's a very descriptive title. And it is the key to a happy life. When we can let go of the pain that we carry around, when we can let go of our anger and our worry and all those negative things, then what happens is love comes in and replaces where that negative energy was being held. And it transforms our life into more of a dance and a fun game rather than hard work and worry and a fight. It's not a war. It's not supposed to be a war. This is supposed to be a beautiful dance. And I explain how the game of life can be so beautiful and how to get there.
So how do you release those negative emotions, those past hurts? Is that, are you talking about forgiveness, or what are you talking about? How does it, what does that look like?
Yes, yes, and yes. So
Yes.
what that looks like is we have to experience emotions through feelings in our body. So our mind sees time differently than our body sees time, different than our emotions experience time. Our mind, in our thinking mind, not our observing mind, not looking out and observing, but in our thinking, thought processing mind, It is never in the current moment. It's always thinking about the past or the future. It has a stream of thoughts. I can't experience music on a sheet of paper the same way as if it plays out over time. So the mind is never in the present moment. And the reason that's important is because the body, where our being experiences emotions, our body is only in the present moment. I cannot experience the physical world from yesterday. I can't cook on yesterday's hot stove. I can't experience what's in the future until my body is in that present moment of the future, which comes one tiny slice of time at a time in each moment. And then my emotions, which come through my emotions know no time at all. They only know the present moment space. Emotions are bigger than time and they're bigger than space. And so if I'm in my mind, outside of my body, I cannot process my emotions. So I need to find techniques, which I explain in the book, such as, for example, breathing. If I observe my breath, and you can tell from the interview, I'm a really wired, excited person. It's not easy for me to slow down and get into my body. But if I take a moment and I experience my breath and I feel my stomach expand and then my chest expand, and then I observe and watch releasing my breath. Now my mind is involved. It's participating, but it's not hijacking the process of feeling my body. So sometimes when I'm feeling worry, any negative emotion, I use my mind to say, I'm going to feel this in my body, and then I'm going to breathe and be aware of my body and try and be aware of my emotions. So my mind is not hijacking the process. I'm here in my body in the present moment with the opportunity to feel those emotions come through. And they don't have to be a radical experience. They can just be a calm experience. And I also imagine transforming that energy into my breath and breathing it out. Now that's way too simple, Randy, but
Yeah.
it's not. It really works. And then I have EFT tapping works, journaling, writing out our problems and challenges work, going for a run, being in nature, yoga, acupuncture, all these things take us to a place where we can re-experience those old emotional wounds through our body and release them. Now people say, I don't want to feel this old stuff. I don't want to feel this. And it's kind of like Pandora's box. Once we open it up, we're going to get a mix. We're going to get good emotions come through, and we're going to be more happy. We're going to be more content, and we're going to have to deal with our negative emotions. But because they know no time, they're going to sit there and wait for us. And through the law of attraction, again, only two ways that the universe interacts with us: love wins, and whatever we're vibrating at gets attracted to us. So if we don't release those old emotional wounds, then the universe will attract things to us, bad things to us, to remind us of those negative emotions. And then again, as I explained in the book and I explained a few minutes ago, if we release those negative emotions, our natural state is love. Our natural state is peace. It doesn't feel like it, but go back to being a child of 1 or 2 or 3 years old. They're full of joy until the world around them says you need to be prepared to deal with danger. And then eventually we adapt to just preparing for danger all the time. And that's not a fun place to be. But let go of the negative. The love, the positive flows in and replaces it, and we live a happier life that way.
And now this book isn't just about business. This is about, you're talking about a happier life in your relationships. So you're talking about all over, even though you've been a businessman, so, but this is for everything. This is for, with your family and your relationships.
This is for the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and this is for a monk in Sedona who's been meditating for 10 years and he can't figure out how to get a breakthrough. This is for anybody on the planet who is not aware of how the system works, the game of life. And again, I believe I've cracked the code, and I really challenge people. Read it and tell me what you disagree with. I'd love to hear it, because if I can learn more, I will learn more. But I've learned all this through the wonderful people I've worked with over the years. I've learned this through all the challenging experiences that I've had. And when I wrote the book and reevaluated all the things I've learned and put them down on paper, I had to go through every experience again. When I say turn the other cheek, I had to go through that experience and go through being wronged, being betrayed, being cheated, and respond from a place of love. And that requires going through old emotional wounds. And it's not always fun, but the rewards are so huge. And So when I would go through these experiences one more time at a deeper level, my life continued to improve. I have an amazing life. I have great health, I have great relationships, I have great uh, financial wealth. And all this hasn't happened because I was smarter and because I worked harder. Yes, those are really helpful, but they've happened because I've embraced the emotional, spiritual side of being, because I've showed up interacting with people from a place of caring and compassion, and I've helped other people find success. That's where my success comes from. Now, there's people who are much happier than me, and there are people who are much more financially successful than me. But I can tell you that those people who have financial success, it does not guarantee fulfillment. It does not guarantee peace. It does not guarantee happiness. And my approach says, let's find great financial success and let's find peace and happiness. And I show people how to do that.
And that concludes this episode of Authors on iTours. If you enjoyed this episode, then do give us a like and a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe so that you can receive notifications for upcoming episodes of Authors on iTours. In the meantime, happy reading. And that concludes this episode.